Thank you for joining me for yet another episode. So today's episode, I'm going to dive into emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence anyway? Emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships jurisdictionally and empathetically. In other terms, it's the ability to understand, manage, and use one's own emotions, and to recognize, interpret, and influence the emotions of others. It involves being aware of how emotions drive behaviors and impacts people either positively or negatively. It also includes 5 key elements: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. People with high emotional intelligence tend to be more successful, empathetic, compassionate, and effective in communication and conflict resolutions. So I want to break down the 5 components of emotional intelligence. So when you have that social emotional aspect of it, is being able to create and maintain a healthy relationship. Have you ever thought about when you have emotional intelligence? In other words, when you can pretty much control your emotions of some sort. I'm going to just say it like that. Your relationships are better because you are able to understand the other person's emotions, the other person's perspective on a certain situation, on certain topics that you discuss. You can relate to them. That's not necessarily saying that your viewpoint is their viewpoint, but you can understand. You have an understanding of someone else on that emotional level. Because when it comes to effective communication and understanding, you have to be able to understand that person's perspective on certain things. I'm going to just say that. You have to understand the emotions that play a part in why they are feeling that certain way. So that's what I mean, like the social emotional aspect of emotional intelligence. And also we have the self-awareness. The self-awareness is the knowledge of one's own thoughts, feelings, and motivations. So you have to understand that your own thoughts and your own feelings and what motivates you too. So being aware of yourself when it comes to those different things. Why are you thinking like this? Why are you feeling like this? And what motivates you to create that thought pattern? What's motivating you at that moment to think like that, whether it's negative or whether it's positive? Like, why are you having a bad day today? Or why do you feel like the world is attacking you or an individual is attacking you? When it comes to social, emotional intelligence, when it comes to dealing with your emotions, accountability plays a big part. Being authentically you plays a big part. Living in your reality plays a big part. So once you can look in the mirror and ask yourself certain questions, understand those thoughts, understand those feelings, understand what's motivating you to feel and think that way, that is at that moment that you can control your emotions on a certain level. The next is the decision making. The ability to make responsible choices and accept their outcomes. That's another form of accountability, but this is accountability on an emotional level. Like responsible choices. Sometimes we can't think off our emotions all the time. I'm going to say not all the time, because sometimes your emotions get you caught up in certain things. So responsible choices and accept the outcome. If you're going to make those choices based off of your emotions at that moment in time, you have to accept the outcome. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays, they make decisions based off their emotions, but they cannot accept the reality and the outcome of what happened. So it's about being self-aware of why you feel the way that you feel. So when you are making these choices, you can accept whatever outcome comes from that choice you made. A lot of people nowadays base so much off of emotions on revenge or get backs, I'm going to say the least, and they don't acknowledge the outcome that they're going to get. I always tell people, when people have issues or when they upset, it's the same as saying, be prepared for what you pray for. You have to be prepared of the choices that you make based off your emotions. So when you react this way or you do these things, are you prepared to face the outcomes that could come from your decision based off of your emotions? And if you can sit back and ask yourself that question and respond like, I'll be okay with it, then you're doing it with pure intentions. But if you can sit back and say, no, I'm going to just say it, I'm going to just do this because it's all about getting back, or it's all about I'm feeling this way, so I want this person to feel this way or feel worse, then it's nobody ever wins in that situation. So you always have to ask yourself at the end of the day, are you basing your decision making? Are you able to make responsible decisions or choices and accept the outcome? So next is the empathy aspect of the breakdown. The capacity to empathize and appreciate another's perspective. When you're in a heated debate with somebody and emotions are running high, can you still conscious and clearly understand the other person's perspective? Can you really sit back and say, I understand why you feel this way? And if you can't do that because you're basing everything off of your emotions, then emotionally, your intelligence level in that aspect is 0. Because you're not thinking clearly. You're not understanding the other person's point of view. You only want that person, or you only focused on how I feel. Everybody is going to have different perspectives of the same situation. People can look at an incident. 5 people, I'm going to just say 5. 5 people could be viewing the same storyline or the same incident. They all could be looking at it, and they all going to have different perspectives on it. Because it's going to make them 5 people feel 5 different ways. And that's okay to do that. It's okay. When it comes to having emotional intelligence, it's not saying to dismiss your own emotions. It's not saying to give in. It's not saying that, but it's saying what it is to do is you have to understand, you have to be open, and you have to be rational when it comes to the decisions that you make, the responses that you get, and the actions that you possess when it comes to these different traits. And a lot of people nowadays are not thinking about that. They just thinking about, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. Or they just thinking about, I feel this way, I don't care about how you feel right now. But that's why so many people are walking around, because they base a lot of their choices off of their emotions at that moment. And then they wake up tomorrow and they feel bad. Because they are basing their decisions off of their emotions at that moment. And sometimes it's not the best response to it, because you're not feeling yourself at that moment. I'm going to just say that. And last, it's the self-regulation of it. The ability to regulate emotions and actions in a variety of environments. Again, depending on the situation, where you at, your emotions might run high. And you have to think, it's not saying that you shouldn't feel, but it's saying at the end of the day, be mindful of how you feeling and the position that you're placing yourself in. A lot of people have traumas. A lot of people can't be in certain situations, can't be in certain areas, because it triggers them. It triggers that response. So emotionally, they're not going to be up for it. Emotionally, they're going to be triggered. So don't put yourself in that situation to make choices based off of that. A person of a high emotional intelligence accepts self and others, can communicate assertively, and displays empathy. A lot of people are knowing that they are empaths, which means I understand how this person is feeling, but that don't mean you have to dismiss your own. It's a lot of people walking around here that is basing their decision making off of someone else's emotions and neglecting their own. Those are high empaths. Those are people that are very, very, very empathetic. But at what point are you going to look in the mirror and say, I have to put myself first emotionally? Because when you start dealing with your emotions, you start messing with your mental. So you have to, at some point, put yourself in a position to not forget about your own emotions, but you also have to understand somebody else's emotions and why they're feeling that way. And that is okay to do without neglecting your own. But those with low emotional intelligence is not accepting of their self and others. They use passive and aggressive communication, and they lack empathy. And it's not to say that they can never get to that place of a high emotional intelligence, but at that point they are low because they lack those qualities. They lack a lot of it. But it's sometimes it's like we can't control it. If we're in a situation that is repeating itself, or we are in a situation where we feel disrespected, or we feel unheard, or we feel unappreciative, we can get in that low realm. It's okay to bounce back and forth sometimes, but ultimately, where's your strong point at? You want to be in that high emotional intelligence rate. So, we have to get that. So some signs of high emotional intelligence can be the ability to identify and describe what people are feeling, an awareness of a personal strength or limitations, self-confidence, and self-acceptance, the ability to let go of mistakes. That's a big one. We can make mistakes and that could drag behind us. Poor decision making based off of emotions. Relationships is a big one. People stay in relationships too long where they know it's been ended because of emotions. People leave relationships that they should have felt like they should have fought for. People mess up relationships and get upset when the other person walks out on them because you weren't pulling your weight. And so they emotions run high off that and they feel like the other person did them wrong. They'll leave a job or they'll stay at a job. So it's many other things. It's so many different things that we do that we feel like is mistakes that we make based off of our low emotional intelligence and the ability to accept and embrace change. Some people they're not good with change, and they will acknowledge that. I'm not great with change. So they stay in their comfort zone. But their comfort zone is making them miserable, I'm going to say. A strong sense of curiosity, particularly about other people. That is one of high emotional intelligence. Feelings of empathy and concern of others. Show sensitivity to feelings of other people. Accept responsibilities for mistakes. That's accountability. The ability to manage emotions in the difficult situation is a big one. And how it's measured is it's a number of different assessments regarding how your social emotional. I love social emotional, but emotional intelligence is measured. So you can measure on different things, like how you handle situations, how you handle your mistakes, how you handle other people when you made them feel a certain type of way. That's a big one. How are you making people feel out here? And then when they are reacting to what you're doing, how are you handling that? Because most people can't handle that properly because they feel attacked. But you have to look in the mirror at yourself. So it's like when we going through life and we dealing with a lot of things, we have to look at our emotional intelligence. What level are we at? And it's okay if you don't have a high or strong emotional intelligence. Work on that. But you have to be aware of where you are. That self-awareness is a big thing. So thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Until next time.